Hello, everyone. I'm Dave Fry, and welcome to the Space Between podcast episodes number 6 and 7. Today, I have the great privilege of speaking with Michele.
Michele Vineyard.
Vineyard.
Vineyard, yes.
Really? How strange. The brilliance of this understanding is to share in our infinite possibilities and to point you back to your innate well-being. We already see you as well. We know that you're not broken. This understanding unleashes profound inner freedom that is sustainable and life-changing. All I ask is that you listen not with your ears, but with the awareness of the feeling you experience during these conversations. Because we truly never know how we're going to show up, and life is a dance. At the end of this podcast are some funny deleted scenes. Please enjoy. Michele and I found ourselves far out at sea, lost in incredible conversations. I'm going to divide this podcast into 2 parts. Please check out podcast episode number 7 for the balance of our time together. Michele Vineyard is a certified personal development coach, spiritual teacher, and mentor. Most of all, she is a lover of life. However, that wasn't always the case. After many years of working in the corporate world and obtaining numerous degrees and certifications, she found a simple truth. These things did not fill her up. These things did not keep her safe. These things did not lead her to an imagined happy place. She recognized the self-imposed limitations and fear guiding her every move for what they were: habitual, useless mental chatter and a dramatic story. She began breaking free from the constraints and fear for good, resulting in lasting change. A part of this journey was discovering what is true for every human being and how we fundamentally work. We are resilient, wise, peaceful, full of mental clarity and innate health by our very nature. Full stop, no seeking required. What we seek is always found precisely where we are at this present moment. It really is that simple. Michele and her clients have experienced tremendous inner growth through insights and life-changing shifts in personal relationships, change in the form of freedom from habits and being open to what shows up in life. She discovered a sense of clarity and knowing that all is okay, and a new understanding of what it means to create from that place of peace, ease, and grace. Michele has seen that we are energy having a human experience, and that life is continuously transforming. This transformation goes way beyond all those limiting thoughts, beliefs, and values currently holding you back. Once you get a feel for how this formless and the form work together in one beautiful, perfectly designed system, your life won't look the same. Michele has a passion for sharing everything she has learned. You can explore this understanding through coaching, online courses, or the new Essence Experience community with information at her website, essence-experience.com. There you can find a free webinar offering an in-depth look at what this journey has provided for her clients. All the links will be in the description below. Thank you for watching, and please subscribe. I don't care what I want to say.
Let's let it flow.
Michele Vineyard, I am so excited to have you here. This is a great honor. I truly appreciate you saying yes to my request to come on the Space Betweens podcast. Thank you so much for being here. It's an honor.
Thank you, Dave. We actually know each other in a very virtual way because we've run in the same circles for a few years now. And so we're finally getting to meet up and talk face to face, so to speak.
That's right. Face to face in this global pandemic. This is wonderful. You have a beautiful background, and I love that. I mean, I obviously that's live. That's really happening in the background. Same here. This is real live. This is the veil over consciousness. So And who knows what goes beyond that veil there. I don't even know. I don't even
I
go back.
like that.
I
I
don't even
wondered
go back
what
there.
that was with because I had seen your other podcast with that background. So now when I watch it, I'll know the symbolism of it. And my background is a screen because I am in snowy upstate New York, where right now every day is gray and there's tons of snow outside and it's freezing. So I need to come to my office and feel the presence of spring and summer, the other seasons.
I love it. I love that. That's amazing. We do know each other from Amy Johnson, and that dates back a while. I think for me, I know that I started like I first was introduced to her, and I'm saying that wrong because she just appeared. It's just like searching and seeking and searching. For me, it was searching for a cure for depression, and all of a sudden, she showed up out of the blue, and she just said something strange. She was weird, odd, strange. She said something unique that you just don't hear very often. So, what about yourself?
Oh, gee, for me, so I had a few years before I heard of Amy, I fell into a spiritual understanding. So I had been in this place of seeking in the spiritual sense. I knew there was a good feeling and I wanted to get that more and more and more and more. But there was this humanness that was holding me back. And like you said, it was kind of like Amy just appeared. When you're ready for the teacher will appear. And so out of the blue, it was, oh, here's Amy with an explanation of human design. This will, I'll be able to learn more about how I work as a human so that I can see how this beautiful process of spirituality and humanness is one thing. And that really has been what it has turned into. So, does everybody know when we talk about Amy who we're talking about?
That's a good question. I don't, through these podcasts, there's been like introductions to certain things. Like last time with Bobby, she introduced the three principles in her loving understanding. So no, I would say no. I have not touched on that subject yet. So would you like to do that?
Sure, we can talk about that.
Yeah, let's talk about Amy Johnson.
Well, she's been very, very influential in both of our lives, and so we'll give credit where credit's due for sure.
Okay, okay, okay. Hey, what's going on? How you doing?
So yeah, I don't know. Amy is just she's a presence, right? She's a presence that when she communicates, it touches your essence. It touches that core of which you are, and she's also very human, as we saw from her video that she sent out. with, uh,
Amy Johnson.
so I love that way that she can speak to the essence and the core and at the same time hold the beauty of life. And she's done amazing things with her little school, A Big Change, and the books that she's written. And so I'll be forever grateful for having her in my life for sure.
Me too. This is where I scroll, me too, like in big, bold purple and green letters here. And I wish I could make it even bigger. It's just like grateful beyond words, grateful beyond words. I think it's so amazing that we now see this, not just see it, but we feel it. We know what she's talking about. In the beginning, it was very not confusing, but it was exciting, yet
Elusive?
elusive. Thank you. Elusive. Yes, yes, that's perfect. Yes, it was elusive, but I was definitely drawn to continue to read more. There wasn't any podcast or anything like that. So it was reading her book, Being Human, and that's it. It was so strange because it took precedent over everything for me. I would rather read her book than to do anything else in my life. So
Hmm. Yeah, I love that. I mean, that's such an example of your essence guiding you to what you needed in the moment, and then you actually listening to that and letting that come through. And I actually was one of Amy's last one-to-one clients when she was still working with people one-on-one. And I had seen such remarkable changes in myself, and I couldn't explain them. As you said, it was very elusive as to what was going on because the intellect wanted to come in and give me an explanation for everything that was happening, try to fix things, all that stuff, all that programming and that habitual stuff. And this was actually a new way of being. And so I wasn't sure what was happening, but as you described, I knew that there was something there pulling me forward. And then when she came out with the coaching program, at that time it was called Deep Impact. I had a few one-on-one sessions left to do with her, but I knew that because I was doing coaching as a profession, as a full-time profession, that I had seen so much through this. It just was a no-brainer that I would go into that program and bring this to other people. And I still don't even know how that looks day to day. I just show up and be a presence, but what I can do is just speak from this place. So working with her kind of opened that up in a greater capacity for me.
I love what you're saying. There's so much to this, and every podcast so far, my mind, which I think it's my mind, my intuition, I don't know what it is exactly, but I can latch on to things that are floating through me, and it's like, okay, we can just do another podcast from here. We can just split off and do another podcast here. We can do another one right there. It's it's just so funny how it happens every single time. So I love what you're saying. So Amy said something, and we both were attracted to that, whatever it was in the beginning. For me, I really believe, and I don't recall the actual words, but I have a gut instinct that said that she was, that her title was psychologist at one point, and then, but she was saying things to me that no other psychologist has ever said. It was like, what?
That's a good voice. I like that.
What? Did you get the degree with everybody else who got the degree at the college and the university or whatever, and all the paperwork and time and effort you put in that thing? I don't know. So it was crazy. And magnetism. Why you? Why me? Why certain people just really resonate with this so incredibly deeply.
Mm,
When we say life changing, we're not joking, people.
no, 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 absolutely a different way of existing in this world. And some days I feel like I'm really good at putting words around it. Man, I got context and I could tell you about it all day long. And other days I just sit there and go, I have no idea what the heck is happening. I have no idea what's going on here, but I know it feels really darn good. And even when it doesn't, I know I'm okay. And I'm telling you that it is, I don't even know. It feels like who I who I was, or the background, or the story, all that stuff. It feels like a lifetime ago in some ways, like just such a different way of being. And I can't, it's so funny, Dave, because, and I'm sure you experience this too. There's some things that in my life right now that my intellect tells me you should be really worried about that. That looks really bad. Why are you not worried about it? It's like screaming at me, wondering why I'm not fixing it and why I'm not worried about it. And I cannot for the life of me get upset, worried, concerned, have fear around these things. Where in the old paradigm or the old way that I had of being, I would be right in there, frantic, so much anxiety going on inside, fear all the time, nothing bad. I didn't want anything bad to happen to me. I didn't want to suffer. And nobody wants to suffer. But when you see that for what it actually is and you get onto it, it starts to dissipate. And when it does happen, you're not sitting there clenched in fear because you have more of an awareness of what's going on.
I love what you're saying, truly, and I completely relate to what you're saying. It's very powerful, and I feel like what I want to do more and more with these podcasts is to try to explain to those watching where we're coming from, like what you just said there. You saw something for what it really was. Can you elaborate more on that, please?
Yeah. So it's sort of a magical experience. And I don't really know how to describe it. There's a very different way of information coming through us or insights coming through us from where they're coming from. So when my wisdom or my essence is giving me information, is speaking to me, uh, it's very loving, very kind, very gentle, not urgent at all. It's just a simple sentence or paragraph or some information that's like, "Oh, right. It's that, yeah, exactly." And it's so gentle and soothing. And when that I don't like these terms necessarily, but we have to use them to explain things. The ego or the identity or that piece of us that is the biology and the habitual stuff is trying to feed me information that is from the old programming, so to speak. It feels very urgent. I've got to figure it out. This is terrible. I'm sure it's doom and gloom. I'm going down the wrong road. I mean, all those stories that we hear up here. And so it's kind of like riding a bike. It's just getting a feel for a new way of being in life. And there's something that happens energetically, and you may not be able to explain it, but when you will see it or it'll show up is when you notice you acted in a different way towards something. Like if somebody came at you, a family member that's always kind of gotten under your skin, and you have a reaction that you've always gone to, and then someday you're in that situation and you act in a completely different way from this space, from this place of being. And then after the fact, you're like, where the heck did that come from? I don't know, but I really like it. Does that help? Does that answer your question?
It illustrates what we're trying to share with others. And this understanding is sharing that the truth is that you can experience anything in any given moment. And once you start to recognize that and become aware of that, then things just start to open up. There's an opening in there. There's an opening in the fact that things aren't always the way you think it's going to be.
No, and we are the understanding. That's the thing. We are it. We are as one with it. So what it is looking more and more like to me, as the layers flake off the biscuit, as the road dirt comes off, right? That's what I call it. It looks more and more like I can see that it's as one. I used to talk about, and I still do from time to time, just for illustration purposes, about formless and form, and we're formless energy, in form. And yes, that's true, but it works together in a beautiful process. It's all by design. And the form cannot know the magnitude of the formless, but it can keep falling back into it. So every single thing that happens to us is a pointer home, is a pointer back to that space between that formless energy, that place of peace, ease, and grace, right? Everything is a calling for us to fall back into that and see what we are at our true essence, our true core, our true nature.
And you and I share a language. And I think this is very incredible and fascinating how our language, like I knew exactly what you were saying there, but I can see where someone coming into this brand new, it would be confusing.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. And we can see that with our clients, right? A lot of the time when we're having a conversation, it's sort of a real time dance. So you never know where the person's at, what's going to hit, what comes up. And so there's sort of a, I don't want to say a skill, but falling back and relying on this space that we are, this beautiful energy to guide the conversation for where that particular person is at, what they need to hear that day, and not having anything on it. So it's not Dave doing the talking, it's not Michelle doing the talking, but it's kind of coming through us, and the more that we can relax, it's sort of like a channeling. But yes, if somebody is coming in, like I'm sure you work with clients, I work with clients where it really just is an hour of letting them cry, of just holding space and letting them talk about what they need to talk about. I'll do very little talking, and I'm certainly not talking about the space between the essence and the identity. No, none of that. We're just having time together for whatever they need. And I'm not really doing anything except acting as a mirror, so to speak, a reflection, or I am them. They are me. So I'm holding space for them to process whatever it is that they need to. And maybe that's an hour of tears, because we get into some really real life heavy stuff. And so no spiritual bypassing here. Yes, if you are having an experience, that is your experience in the moment, feels very real to you, and no one wants to deny that for sure, because you will go through that and do the best that you can in that moment with the thinking that you have in that moment, 100%. And at any given time, there's always something more available to you.
I love that. I really do. It's tricky.
It's tricky.
We are the understanding, every single one of us. So it's not they, it's we, and we all go through, all of us. Every coach I've known so far, I mean, there hasn't been a single person that I know of that doesn't experience ups and downs, and it's okay to go through thought storms that seem that at one point in the past they felt like they were going to tear me in half.
Absolutely. I know I've had pain in my life that it just wiped the floor with me. I mean, it was so bad, that I have actually, my intellect kind of left the building because it couldn't process what was going on. I didn't know at the time, but that was a protection mechanism. My body was working perfectly. It was doing what it needed to do to protect me. And I think what happened was, especially from the trauma that I experienced in my younger years in my childhood, that when I got older, my body and the psychology didn't get the memo that I didn't need that protection anymore. So I was still kind of living in that space of needing to control everything because, as a child, grew up in a very chaotic household, had a teenage mother. My biological father, I've met him one time in my life. Stepfather's sexual abuse, like all of that stuff. But somehow, so I shut down a lot when I was younger, and it was a protection thing. And somehow I knew, though, that none of that history or any of that story was mine. It didn't mean anything about me, and I didn't need to carry it forward in my life. But what I did carry forward was this need to control, because if I just kept things on an even keel, nothing could hurt me again. I would experience no suffering, and oh my gosh, that was so exhausting. And I had reached a point where I was internalizing things so much that I had to take handfuls of prescription acid reflux medication to be able to eat my food because I was just so in turmoil inside. On the outside, it looked like I had everything together. I'm getting my education, raising my son, have a job, all those things that we equate with success and functioning and all of that stuff. But on the inside, I was a mess. I was a mess.
I'm not sure where to go exactly, besides the fact that I feel right now so grateful for you being here. I just want to say that there's a true miracle in all of this. I mean, it's unfortunate that we would have to go through just mind altering and mind blowing tragedy and the suffering.
Yeah, the suffering.
There's a lot of it's amazing that we've survived the suffering. I mean, there's so many people that don't survive the suffering. They will, something tells them that it's not worth the suffering, and
Yeah.
they will end their lives.
Yeah.
And yet you and I are both just living proof that there's something so compassionate and loving that has our back and has always been there for us. Through the suffering, we don't see it, we don't feel it necessarily. I'm making that up a little bit, but through the hard suffering, it's hard to recognize that. And the beauty in this understanding is Michele and I are telling you right now that there is this beautiful, amazing energy. We use words, we use our limited words, but there is something so profoundly beautiful that has you.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'll just take a minute, Dave, because I want to talk about the year 2019 because for me that was a sort of a significant year, and it points to a lot of things that you were just talking about. So the end of 2018, the very end of 2018, my 19-year-old nephew overdosed on drugs. And I had been in this understanding for a while, and I had that spiritual background that I was, exploring, and I was working with Amy at the time, and that was a moment where I saw all this come together for me. I saw it working. So I got the news that he had overdosed, and he was like a son to me. I actually had him live at my house for a while because I wanted to help him. I wanted to make him better. I thought I had the answers for him, and I wanted better for him. So, it didn't work out. He left, and so I remember the morning my husband came in and told me that he was dead, that he had overdosed from drugs, and my mind, this is what I mean, my intellect, it kind of disengaged. I could feel it going, I could just feel it leaving because it couldn't compute. But I knew that I had to get to the phone and call my son because my son was in Germany at the time, and I did not want him to hear this from anybody or see it anywhere, but I needed to tell him. So something got me to the phone, called my son, told him. I called his friends that he was staying with to make sure that he had some support because he couldn't speak. I can't talk, and he hung up. So I couldn't help him. And then the next few days, I was in that disengaged state where I was getting up, getting dressed, driving to my office, doing what I had to do. Go to my brother-in-laws and my nieces and comfort them. All that stuff happened. My body moved through it, but my intellect it was out of the picture. I couldn't process it, and that was okay. I was still doing what I needed to do. Something had my back. It was living me, but I didn't need to be in it fully with the intellect right then. And slowly started coming out of that. And I really saw this when I went to his memorial, and I gave a speech around his life. And a few days after this happened, some words started coming to me. And it was almost like this I don't know what it was, but I had to get these words out of me, and it didn't even feel like it was my words. I had to get them on paper, and I knew I had to speak them at his service. So the day of the service, people are coming in. I'm greeting people. There's a sense of grief and sadness, but hugging people and get up to speak. And my husband got up with me. He's such an amazing man. He had to hold me because my body, when I was speaking, just went into this breakdown in front of all these people. I just didn't care. I was shaking, like I was uncontrollably shaking. I was crying, but I'm still reading the words. And do you know that my mind came in and said to me, you need to speak louder so those people in the back can hear you. During all this stuff, I was like, this is it. I'm letting energy move through me. This is the worst suffering I have ever experienced in my life. And I'm still functioning. Something has my back. There's something loving here that's carrying me through this. And I went up and down that year, obviously, and I still do. From time to time, I'll get a hit, and I need to go down for a little bit.
Right.
And that's okay. But the beauty of it was, what came out of all of that was, I might have thought I knew what my nephew needed or what his life was supposed to look like. It didn't matter. I didn't need to save him. It's all okay. It's all okay. That's the end message in this. And I find so much peace in that. And I got a call a few weeks ago about another family member that was kind of going down the same road. And my biology, immediately I went and I could just feel it because I had been there and I know what that feels like. And I said, I don't know what to do, but I don't want to go through this again. And a gentle voice came in and said, Michelle, that no matter how this goes, everyone is okay. And I felt such a peace, just so much love and peace through me. So I think that illustrates how, we might feel like we're being dragged through the mud in a moment. And maybe things don't turn out how we think that they should, but it is all okay.
Thank you so much for sharing that story. That's incredible, and I'm sorry for your loss. I really am, but it's really amazing that you can share that story. That in itself, the fact that you can share that story and be here and be of service to others is such a magnificent miracle. It really is. It's incredible. I mean, thank you so much. Thank you for your service. Thank you for what you do. And how did the Essence experience come about?
So Essence experience was, so my son went away to Japan when he was 15 to study. And so he went to high school there, and he was there for a year. My house got really, really quiet, and I knew I wanted to do something else, but I didn't know what. And all of a sudden, this Essence experience started coming up. I'm like, well, what's that? And it was the words essence. I knew that's what, at our core, that's the context that makes sense to me to describe it, that energy or space. And experience is something that you have to experience for yourself, right? So put that together and you're getting that experience of yourself. And you're getting it from a place that's deep. So once you see it, you can't unsee it. And that's what this conversation is about over and over and over again. It's an essence experience. And so what that is, or what it's turned into, I didn't have any idea that it would be at this time, but it's going to be a global brand that will house all of my products and services. And my team, who works to get this understanding out into the world. And I want to have many entry points. So what I mean by that is I create some spiritual based products and services like working with the divine feminine, because some people come in from that place. That's where I started, this more spiritual, esoteric type of wording. I want to create products and services for around human design, because that's been so helpful from that perspective. So I'm hoping that it's going to be sort of an umbrella place where people can pick and choose from the menu depending on what calls to them in the moment. Because Claire Diamond uses this phrase, Dave. I don't know if you've heard it, but mountain, no mountain, mountain. And I love this because, we see this mountain and then we go up the mountain and it's like, oh, there's no mountain. But then after we get up there, we're like, I got to go back down the mountain. and so it's like a reintegration of bringing all of this stuff together. And where the heck do you end up? You end up where you're at, where you've been. So all of this seeking, because I was such a seeker. I went the other way and I was seeking everything spiritual. There's no seeking to be had here, no efforting to be had here. I know for some of you, some people listening to this right now, it might not feel that you have innate health, and it might not feel you're exactly where you need to be, but you are. And my word might not be good enough for this, but I've seen it over and over, time and time again. Ask yourself, just get quiet, grab a cup of tea or coffee, and ask yourself, where the heck am I supposed to be going? I don't think you'll have any good answers, because, your mind can make up all these stories, but where do they go? Where do they go? Right here, where we're at.
Yeah, that's really profound. It really is. It's amazing. And I just changed my introduction to these podcasts to entice the seeker, because that's kind of how I found Amy. I was seeking. I wasn't ready to give up on life quite yet, even though I gave up on every professional out there, every psychologist, every psychiatrist. I gave up on that professional Western therapy style. I was like, I can't do it anymore. And so it was just like I was seeking for something else. I found myself working my whatever hours during the day, but then staying after work and searching everything I could possibly get my hands on, and trying to, I think naturally, not that I had a certain focus, but naturally I was hoping that something would resonate with me out of all the things that are out there, thousands and thousands and thousands of information overload. Boom. But then Amy showed up at the right time. Not even at the right time. She just showed up, and whatever she was saying, which is exactly what you're saying, and it's just something resonated deeply with the fact that I had everything I already needed. And it's so strange to hear that. That is not typical. That is not what that is not typical.
When we talk about seeking, Dave, something you said just there was something that went off in here, but
I love when that happens.
I know. The insights.
What was that?
Seeking from where are you seeking from? I think that's what makes the difference. So for me, if I am seeking, it's from a different place. It's not a place of like urgency and fixing. Like that type of seeking to me, as I look back in hindsight, it felt like almost desperate and grasping. And now if there is any seeking happening, it's a natural seeking, like you said about Amy just showed up, because I'm in such a place of clarity, or when I'm not in that place, I know how to fall back into it, that I can see things that I'm being pointed to or that are trying to show up that I would not normally have seen if I was so caught up in my thinking. Like, for instance, today I was driving here And I looked over, and there's a stream of water that I drive by, and I saw this little family of ducks, and I just smiled. It just made me feel so good. And there was a time in the past where I would have been too busy to see that beautiful that beautiful symbolism of life right there beside me. I would have been too busy to see that miracle.
I love that. I love that miracle of, I don't even know how to explain it, but it happens all the time where there's just something that appears. It's, well, for instance, this morning I was bringing back the recycle bin, and as I was looking down, I saw the tiniest of tiniest feathers. Is so strange because when I saw it, I almost I felt gratitude. I felt
Mhm.
like saying thank you, because it was just something that I have never seen before. It's so strange that something so small, but it was almost profound.
Yeah.
It was
Yeah.
almost like a connection from me to the universe, to everything in between. It was just an amazing moment. It was just one little tiny moment. And I think what's interesting about this understanding is that it allows us to be more receptive to those little moments that are happening trillions of times per day, but we just miss them.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. It's a newfound love for life. That's the only way I know how to describe it. And every day is a new experience. Every hour, every minute, there's new, fresh experience, thinking, life available to us. And even when it looks like nothing's happening, like it sometimes in our businesses or in our lives, we want something to change so bad for us externally. But what we don't see is energy, experience, all this stuff, experience, energy, thoughts. We are transformers of energy. It's moving at a pace that is so fast that it looks slow to us, but it's impossible for things not to be happening constantly, just as we're having this conversation. So many miracles, so much life. But, we're sitting here breathing. What is this biology? Like, this is a miracle. And just by being here, why do we have to um, prove our worth, or try to get to this fictitious top of the mountain space where everything will be happy and no suffering? Why do we have to do that? For us being here and showing up in our very being is a miracle.
Oh, I'm so glad you're here, Michelle. Uh,
Thanks.
oh,
I'm loving this conversation. Because Dave, let's face it, like we are in a circle where we know people that we can get into these in-depth conversations, but a lot of times going this deep and having this dialogue with people, it takes a little bit to get there, or maybe they're not in a space where they're ready to hear it. So it's fun to have this dialogue.
it really is. It's amazing to get right into it.
Yeah, exactly. What a life-changing year this was. 2 weeks after my nephew passed, my husband was diagnosed with bladder cancer. So we went through that. He had the surgeries, he had the tumors removed, and he, thank goodness he's been cancer free since then. And so we went through that. And then we went on a trip to Japan because my son was over there. I mentioned when he was 15, he got a scholarship, so we went there for a year to study. And my son is an amazing. All children are amazing. Of course, I might be biased, but my son loves people. He just loves people, and he met so many people in Japan. and one of his contacts was a monk. And the monk wanted him to come back to Japan and offered him a position to learn about temple etiquette and how to maintain the temple. So here's my son, 17 years old, going to Japan to help maintain a temple.
Incredible.
And I had went through this period where I didn't want to travel. I had had a really traumatic travel experience in the past. I got snowed in the airport. I had to sleep on the floor. There were protests. I mean, it was really scary. So again, my thinking came in and it was like, let's keep it small. We won't travel. You won't get hurt. You won't suffer. So, well, what happened was, Hunter had been on all these travels. My husband went to Japan, and I kept making excuses. I can't go, work, dog, all these things, whatever I could come up with. And basically what happened that year was I ran out of excuses, and I saw the value of going out and doing these things by losing my nephew, and seeing my son or my husband go through the bladder cancer. So I said, you know what? And I talked to Amy about this too. And she said, when it comes time to make those reservations for Japan, you'll either put one in or two in the reservations. Because, of course, I'm up in my head trying to work it out. So I went. And it was the most amazing experience of my life. It'll be hard to put into words, but life changing to go to a temple, hear and see your son, and his working there, and hearing him chant, open up text and chant Buddhist scripts. And I could just be at the temple for the day and enjoy it. And his host family that he had when he was there have become close friends to us. Imagine being somewhere where you don't know, most people, you don't know what they're saying. You don't know what you're doing from minute to minute. So my mind could come in and tell me things because I was literally I had to go moment to moment. So here I had these really life-changing things going on all around me. I can't even tell you the feelings at the temple. It was such an energetic thing. I couldn't understand what people were saying to me. I made a fool of myself so many times. I can't even tell you. Try to explain to someone that does not speak English in English that you do not speak Japanese. It does not work. But you know what? I didn't care. I was in it, and I just went moment to moment and let it go. So, I mean, that was that whole beginning of the year, the death of my nephew, Jim's cancer. Then I went to Japan, come home from that, and just kind of let that settle. And then in October of that year, we went to Spain because my son went to school there. So I took my baby. He had been traveling internationally since he was 15. So it wasn't anything different for him to be leaving the house because he hadn't been home that much. But there was something different about this, and the fact that he was not coming back. He was going to university there. So we took him over, and I said goodbye to him. And I didn't think I was going to have any reaction to it because I was so used to him being gone. And there was definitely some stuff in there that needed to flow through. And look at that. I just look at that year in all of that experience from literally feeling like I was crawling on the floor. So much despair and anguish. You know how they say you wouldn't wish that pain on your worst enemy? Yeah. Right. We both know what that feels like. To going to Japan and being in a temple within a matter of like 5 months and having this, once in a lifetime experience. Just in all that year was nothing but that. Deepest lows, highest highs. And it's hard to find words for it, but I know it was what they say, like a life-changing year, just so much to see in that.
Definitely life-changing after seeing all of it, right? So it's,
oh yeah,
during the moments, we don't see it all, but when we get a chance to step back and see the amazing amount of life that happens. It's truly incredible. I mean, I love what you're sharing here, because I've felt like I've wanted to share that too, of all the things that I've survived. It's and Amy once wrote and something about, we and you and I know to try to explain this to people, that we are having thoughts all the time, and not all of those thoughts are going to be something that we pay attention to. Some of them we will, some of them we won't. Some of them we experience them, and it seems like that experience is who we are. But what we're trying to share is that we're not that experience. We get to have an experience, but we are not the experience. We get to have it, but we're not the experience, even though it feels like we are that experience. And from sharing, she said that to think about our thoughts, and the ones that we experience that we don't like, and then another one comes in, well, we've just survived that experience. We've survived that one thought, and then another thought comes in. It's like, for me, for whatever reason, it just blew the top of my skull right off. It was like, oh my gosh, we are surviving these experiences one after another, back to back. And then to be able to step back from that and see over an entire year of the things that we have survived, and the things that we have recognized, and the things that we've become aware of. I mean, it's ginormous.
It is. And the experience, so the experience arises within us, just constantly the experience is arising within. And when we look back, because you're right, I love that when you said about not in the moment, you don't necessarily see it, but after the fact, a story for all intents and purposes kind of comes together, an explanation. But I want to say something about a difference that I've experienced with that. When my mind, my intellect is putting the story together about what happened, it feels different to me than when it's true wisdom about what happened.
Me too.
It's a different place that story's coming from.
That is huge, and that's something that we're getting in. That we've just went into and I know there's no real levels, but we just went to the temple, Michele.
Right.
Okay, you just went into the temple and you opened up some ancient scrolls and you started chanting right there. Right. Even though it sounded like you were just speaking in English, you were speaking another language right there. You felt it.
It touches you in here, Dave. It's like essence to essence talking, because that resonates with you in that deeper place, because you've had that experience, so you know exactly what I'm saying.
Yeah. You went deep.
That's good, because in the space between, it looks like there's nothing happening there. For gosh sakes, it's so boring and gentle sometimes, but actually there's so much happening there. So much happening there. That's where the juice is.
I like that.
Mm-hmm.
That's exactly where the juice is. In the space between.
Yes.
Can we go back to that amazing? Let's go back to that. You're saying that our mind comes up with these billions of thoughts per day. Seems like it. I think they came up with a number like 269,422 thoughts per day, give or take 10 to 20,000, which is pretty amazing that somebody sat around in the lab room and watched the little lights flicker into somebody's brain. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So our minds create these amazing thoughts. But wisdom is different. It's different.
It's so different.
So different.
So different. So I have another story, Dave. Now I told you that things would go deep, and I have no problem talking. So I have another story to illustrate this. So my mom, teenage mom, had me. I told you, touched on all of that. But anyway, coming out of that, I had a lot of anger towards my mom in my 20s. I didn't understand why. To me, it looked like she was purposely putting me in danger, and I blamed her for a lot of things, right? And when I had my son, it got worse because here I am, a mother, and I could never imagine putting my child in danger. And all the stories I created, the stories I projected onto my mother at that point in her life were amazing. And one day I had this deck of cards because I love insight decks and oracle decks. But I picked up this card and it said, "Your parents are like children." And I was like, oh my God. It's just like, you know how you describe the top of your head blowing off? That was one of those moments for me. It's like, my mom was just doing the best with the thinking that she had in the moment, period. And so all of this story and this suffering and this anger and all of the stuff that I had around my mom, it started to dissipate. And it wasn't immediate, but I could feel a shift in it. And I am so eternally grateful for that because my mom is now, she holds a place in my life where I can have a conversation with her and I can love her. And it's just a completely different place to come from. And to think that I could have been holding on to that story for so long and been suffering and missed out on that relationship. It's amazing. It's amazing. And I'm not sitting here and saying that every person should forgive every person in their life. No, your wisdom will guide you, whether you should heal a relationship. Like in the moment, it will guide you. So please don't take this as everybody should forgive everybody for everything. That's not what I'm saying. But it illustrates where I had an insight and the story came from a much bigger space, or the wisdom came from a much bigger space than the story that I was projecting out of here, this intellect that was like, why? And, just so angry. And, just that was eating me up inside. That was eating me up inside.
Anger does that. It really, it's so strange. I know exactly what you're talking about. But
Yeah, I'm guessing everyone who watches this will be able to resonate in some way with that.
Right.
Yeah, I don't know. It's like inside of us there's just so much peace, ease, and grace inside of us. I mean, gosh, just living from this space instead of that urgent, angry, got to figure it out, got to get somewhere feeling. I can't, there's no amount of money, there's nothing external to me that could bring that feeling to me.
That is really important. That's important to share that. And it's so strange. And I wanted to ask you, why do you think that we innocently form or follow? No, I don't know if follow is the right word, but we innocently move into limiting factors in our lives. There's something that pulls us into, I'm making this up right now. I'm trying to explain these limiting ideas that we never had as children. And that's the beauty of that card that you saw, and something resonated with you that we are all children in a way. We're all learning, we're all growing, we're all experiencing new things constantly. And for those that seem to like they have it all together, well, we know that everyone thinks.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yes. No, that's
What we see on the surface of something is not necessarily the truth. In fact, it may not be the truth at all.
no. The external is such an illusion. It really is. When you get to the point or place, if you see this for yourself, where the formless and the form kind of merge as one thing, you realize that the best thing you can do for yourself is to love yourself and have these insights for yourself and do this for yourself, because the more love you have for yourself, the more compassion and love you can hold for everybody else, because you see yourself in everybody else. It's like looking into a mirror, we are all the same. I know that's such a cliched thing to say. We don't have the same circumstances, for sure. Life would be pretty boring if we all had the same circumstances, and we don't have the same experience, but we are all the same thing, and it is pure, unconditional love. I don't know any other way to put it.
Put the film.
I drink this all day. If you open me up, I'd have tea for blood.
Darn you, Zoom.
Well, we're here.
We are here. I got to do some editing. You're a polite human being. I can tell that, because you want to look at me in my eyes.
Yes, I do.
Right. But that's not looking at the camera.
So awkward.
I know it's so wrong.
I'm looking like off in direction somewhere. It's like,
Isn't this called the space between? I was talking to you in the space between.
Hey, what's going on? How you doing?
I have no idea where it comes from, and I never really noticed it until I started doing these podcasts. Right. The space between. Such a strange phrase.
Michele Vineyard.
Vineyard.
Vineyard, yes.
Really? How strange. Yeah, I wish my last name was like backyard or basement. Hand signal that lets us know that you want to edit this out or change something, and it's tricky.
It's tricky.
Ready to start?
Ready to start.
I can't do 3 very well.
3, 2, 1.